A warm welcome to Anuradha Vedic Astrology. Let's talk about the second house placement of Mercury today. But before that, a big thanks to all of you for liking, sharing and subscribing to our videos and writing in your comments and suggestions there. If you haven't subscribed to us, please do, and remember to press the bell icon. It will help you to assess the videos faster. Now, let's talk about Mercury in the second house. Before we move on to Mercury in the second house, let's talk a little about Mercury and the second house individually. The second house shows a lot of things, which includes our thought process, our value system, our learnings, our earnings, our family, so on and so forth. Mercury, as the second house suggests, is also the one which talks about our speech. The second house is related to our face and also our mouth, and Mercury talks about our speech. Mercury is the basic knowledge that one has, and it talks about one's thought process. Mercury is an apt child who knows how to absorb a lot of knowledge, talking about the second house of knowledge. And Mercury also shows multiplicity wherever that it sits. Again, Mercury has a hardcore business sense. With all this, let's mix together and see what Mercury in the second house have to say for us. So, Mercury, when placed in the second house for us, with Mercury generally we see it's placed with Sun or Venus because they always travel as a group. But when Mercury is alone, it needs to have certain planets supporting it, because a lone Mercury can go either ways. Now, when we talk about Mercury in the second house, the first thing that we need to understand that the second house talks about speech, and Mercury is the planet of communication. If well placed, then this Mercury can show a lot of articulate way of speaking. People can be persuasive, people know how to influence others, and their communication is straight, communication is balanced, logical, and they are very firm yet very affable in the way they communicate things. Their speech is also witty, but they are very strong in their communication. Then we move on to the sense of knowledge, because Mercury is a young child, and when people have Mercury sitting in the second house, which is the house of knowledge, then these people will definitely know how to gain as much of knowledge as possible, depending on the Rashi that it is falling in the second house. Now, if the second house falls in any of the Artha Rashis, one of them being the house of exaltation of Mercury, then a hardcore sense of the third point that I was going to discuss about material gains and values or material knowledge comes. For example, such a person could be a good chartered accountant, such a person could have a knowledge of the commerce, trade and commerce very strongly, as opposed to the watery placement of Mercury, where a person can move into understanding a lot of certain things, going deep into research or deep vidya. Again, a water house is a house where Mercury becomes debilitated. So, the sense of money may not be very strong in that house, but there is a chance, or there is a huge probability that the person has very strong inclinations towards learning in other fields and going deep down in the way of learning without any ego, without any malice. Now, when we move into the Mercury in the second house with respect to business or commerce, yes, Mercury shows commerce or business sense. Second house is about money. So, Mercury, when well placed in the second house, gives an innate sense of business. This is something I found very true holding in charts, especially if such a Mercury is exalted, is in a friend's house. I have found that these people know profits and losses right from their mother's womb. They are very clear about their thought process also. What is it that I can gain from it? It's not just about profit and loss in a material sense, but in every sense your profit and loss. Such people have a very good ideology of ascertaining where they can win and where they have a chance of losing. Again, when we look into the second house, we can also say that the financial prospects of such people are very good, and such people will also, but because Mercury is a fast moving planet, so such people can also have certain issues or problems with Mercury when it comes to finances, in the sense there could be certain fluctuation, you could be moving in a lot rapidly as opposed to going slowly, until and unless there is a stable influence on that Mercury. So the second house connection with Mercury is very strong. Let's talk about Rabindranath Tagore's chart. He has his Mercury in the second house of a fiery sign, okay, that is in Aries, and it is with an exalted sun, exalted 6th lord, and it is with Venus. And we know that his writing and his thought process was very clear. For somebody to give up the knighthood from at that point, the most powerful nation would not have come easily, but his thought process was very clear. So Mercury gives a clear thought process in this case. Mercury also gives him an ability to foresight of building something that would be of a great value, and we all are aware of his literary abilities. Mercury here is also sitting with the 3rd lord Venus, giving him a very succulent, very logical, very strong speech and writing abilities. Okay. Now, and a thought process. I have always maintained Mercury is your thought process, okay. Moon is your emotions. So this Mercury here gives him a very strong thought process. This Mercury is also associated by Rahu, because it is aspected by Rahu from the 10th house, giving him an ability to be able to do things in a different manner, talk differently, act differently, and think differently, out of box. Another chart that I take up here with Mercury again in the 2nd house, but this 2nd house changes. It is for Bharti Singh, who is a very well known comedian. In the same combinations, but the sign changes. The sign becomes the sign of Gemini, the sign of communications in sense, and also the sign of connectivity. So the connectivity with people for her, because Mercury is again the 2nd lord and the 5th lord, so gives her great wit, great sense of communication, and as it is associated with the Lagna lord, becomes very strong in its own house. Again a very powerful planet, saying a person who is self-made and has a very sharp mind, clear thought process, ability to make money from different business ventures, because here Mercury is in a dual sign, and dual signs represents multiplicity along with Mercury, which is making it multiple. So the person will have multiple sources of income, as it is also related to the 5th house. So big income, and since it is also related with the 4th house, so an ability to connect with your masses, with your speech, with your humor, because Mercury also represents humor, and there will definitely be ups and downs in life with regard to finance, because Sun is a very strong and a stabilizing influence, those financial ups and downs will be stabilized to a certain extent. So Mercury on the whole in the 2nd house is good. It gives you good value system, your moral system is good, you are focused, you are decisive in your values, you know what you want, and you are very clear with your speech, articulate, persuasive, you can influence people, and so Mercury in the 2nd house is good. If you have any chart, do let us know, or for that matter how it shows up in the chart, do let us know. Till we meet with you again, stay safe.
Please hit the bell icon for fresh updates. Don't forget to like, share and comment on the videos, and please subscribe to our channel.